Welcome back to In the Huddle, talking Sullivan South Rebel football with head coach Sam Haynie. I'm your host, Tom Taylor. And, Coach, wow, one for the ages last week. Man, all the drama, the build-up was there about these two great powerhouses colliding, and that's exactly what we got. The fans got a heck of a football game to watch.
Yeah, it was one of those that the fans play with you, I think. You know, they were as tired as we were after the game. Heck of a football game. You know, the first half back and forth. We told the kids all week that it was going to be like a heavyweight fight. You're going to have to take a punch and throw a punch, and it was all it touted to be.
I thought the football game showed our defense really stepped up. We stopped a really good football team. I know they had the ball very little in the fourth quarter, maybe only one drive total, one possession. So our kids defensively, the fact they had to stop Thomas, and they did for the most part, although they had a great game, but could have had more. But I thought our kids really stepped up defensively and showed me something.
Well, you know, we made some adjustments. At halftime, they had us miss a line a time or two in the first half and ripped off some big runs. Halftime, Coach Hilton challenged them to get up and play. They did that. And then, as you alluded to, they only had one possession in the fourth quarter. Our offense kept the ball for the final 7 minutes and 42 seconds, which was huge. Kept Ethan Thomas and their offense off the field. So just a good effort all around defensively in the second half. Offensively, kind of holding serve in the first half and then getting one there in the second half that we needed.
Before we go to the highlights, Coach, again, the Rebel Nation, they're big time last week. I mean, they were huge. You could hear them all the way on our side of the field. We were broadcasting, and sometimes it sounded like to me they were louder than the Cyclone fans.
That happens a lot of times with our bunch, you know, and just a lot of regulars there, a lot of people you see every once in a while, but it was a good crowd. Our kids fed off of it. They got pumped with the emotion of that, and just exciting environment, fun to be in.
A Three Rivers Conference Championship come back to Sullivan South, again defeating Elizabethton, avenging last year's defeat, 28-27 here, winning over there last Friday night, or Thursday night rather, 28-21. We'll come back and play the highlights and talk about a stout defense and a heck of an offense held together and garnered by a guy that he is the deal, Dylan Wigger. We'll talk about him and more as we come back. We're talking South football with head coach Sam Haynie as you're listening to and watching Sullivan South Rebel football.
What does Fort Henry Drive, Sullivan South, and Great American Food all have in common? The Hot Dog Hut in Colonial Heights, located at 4028 Fort Henry Drive in Kingston. The Hot Dog Hut has a wide selection of mouth-watering food and is locally owned by Jim Hackett, so you're sure to always be treated like a neighbor, not just a customer. So whether you're a die-hard Sullivan South Rebel or just a fan of Great American Food, stop by the Hot Dog Hut in Colonial Heights.
Wake up to a new, better breakfast. It's Golden Corral's tastier than ever ultimate weekend breakfast buffet. For one low price, it's our new buttermilk pancakes, bacon, sausage, signature omelets, and more. Juice included. It's a better breakfast, and it's only at Golden Corral.
Welcome back to In the Huddle, talking Sullivan South Rebel football. I'm your host, Tom Taylor, head coach Sam Haynie, who picks up yet another victory for the big guy. And, Coach, Friday night, it got started early with a guy named Josh Booker. Set up this touchdown for us.
Well, you know, there in the first quarter, we made a long drive. We called Josh Booker in from the slot, handed him a little outside sweep play. Got a couple good blocks. He made a good cut. Opened us up with about a 15-yard touchdown score there to get us going.
Yep, got a bigger run. Of course, Burdine made the point after, and it's suddenly a 7-0 football game. But they come right back, and you knew they would. Ethan Thomas gets a 52-yard run to tie it up. Moving into the second quarter, you go to the big guy, Christian Kamsa, big catch from Wigger, set up this touchdown pass.
You know, we were throwing the bubble screens and the tunnel screens because they were playing loose in their coverage. So we were taking that 4 to 7 yard pass. Christian made a couple good moves to get loose there, and then one move there at the goal line to get in the end zone. It was just a heck of an effort by him once he caught the ball. And, the guys getting downfield and blocking. But another one where we were just taking what they gave us, and then he made a play.
I think Christian Combs has improved his game this year. I mean, he was good coming in, obviously, but I think he's kind of stepped it up, kicked it into another gear talent-wise over the course of the season. Fair statement?
Yeah, he has. I mean, and he's made a lot of plays, both over the top of defenses, and then as he did there the other night, catching it and then making some moves and using his speed. A little elusive, as big as he is, but once he gets rolling down the field, he's outran some people this year.
You feel like when you catch a football and you run, can we use the adjective of you're elusive when you run with the football?
Me?
Yeah.
Nah, straight ahead. I'm a straight ahead man. I could get us 3.
Oh, Lord. Love it. Talking about a guy that ran straight ahead. Next touchdown came from Elizabeth and Caleb Jones. We heard all about Thomas. This guy's good, but I'm telling you what, Caleb Jones for Sean Witten last week, he ran that football hard. He came back with a 41-yard run of their own to come right back against Sullivan South.
He was. That kid, Caleb Jones, you alluded to, we knew he was a good football player. He got loose again, ripped off a big run at that juncture. You're thinking, I don't know how many we're going to have to score to win this game, but, we settled down. But at that point in time, it was kind of a fast break type of game.
Absolutely. Of course, again, we come back, and the guy we talked about going into the break, Dylan Wigger, he just took the football team on his shoulders last Friday night and willed us to win. And I've seen that before since I've been here at South. A guy by the name of Heath Hayden's done that before. So has Aaron St. Clair. And so last week it was Wigger's turn to put his team on his shoulders and say, we're going to do whatever we got to do to win. And he got a huge 41-yard touchdown run.
He did, and we were going to punt the football right there. Elizabethton got too many people on the field and had to use a timeout. Coach Hilton and I discussed it really quick. Coach Jordan's always ready to go for it. It doesn't matter. He's got a bullet in the old holster there. So we gave him the go-ahead. He dialed up a little option play there that Dylan kept for a big run and a huge score at that juncture in the game.
We're talking to head coach Sam Haynie. We're talking Sullivan South Rebel football. You're in the huddle. I'm your host, Tom Taylor. And, of course, they come back. Thomas, another big run, 64-yard run. This kid's the deal. And you've been around this a long time. In your humble opinion, how good is he compared to some of the other great running backs you've seen or played against in your career?
Well, on the high school level, I think the thing that sets him apart from a lot of guys is his strength. I mean, we got to him a lot there in the first half. He runs through arm tackles, just such a physical kid. He's as good from a standpoint once he has the ball as anybody we've seen. Dustin Moore back in the early 90s, who ended up going to Tennessee, was just a physical presence that could run well. But, Ethan's as good of a football player as we've seen.
Two guys I've had a chance to call ball games against down through the years, both with when I was at Dobbins Bennett. James Littleman Stewart at Morristown West, he could tote the mail, and a guy down at Red Bank, Gerald Riggs, went on to play in the pros. He could do it too, but this kid may be as good, if not better. He just, as you said, he is awesome. And again, his numbers: 6,384 yards after the game the other night, and 79 touchdowns. So pretty impressive stuff. We have a kid who comes back in that third quarter, does some pretty impressive stuff. Dylan Wigger, that big 22-yard run to give us the lead. Tell us about that.
Yeah, just once again they had bailed out of there to cover those short passes we're throwing. Dylan checks off, gets to the second level, makes a move, and we knew that at that juncture we challenged them at halftime that we were ahead. When I say this, 2 stops to 1, we'd had 2 defensive stops to their 1 defensive stop. And we knew that because we got the opening half kickoff, if we could score at that first possession in the third quarter, that's going to put things sort of in our favor. And that was huge for us to come out in the third quarter and put a little bit more pressure on their offense.
Talking to Coach Sam Haynie, we're talking Sullivan South Rebel football. Coach, were you surprised they didn't throw? I mean, I kept hearing about how much they ran, but I also heard Armstrong would sit back there and throw it. And were you surprised how much they did throw, given the fact that the running game was working for Elizabethton?
They're in the third quarter, late in the third quarter, they came out one series, and I think they threw it 3 straight times. Of course, as a coach at that juncture, you're holding your breath that they don't catch one and break something. But, our defensive backs held up. They kind of got away from the running game a little bit, which, for us, we appreciated that. But, I'm sure they may have seen something that they could exploit. But our kids made plays on the ball.
Yeah, they were 7 for 15 for 36 yards passing. That was it for the night. What a testament to our defense.
Yeah, and that's when you're geared up to stop the run, and then they come out and throw it. Sometimes you got to change your mindset. But our guys have been playing that man coverage and challenging receivers all year, and stepped up when we needed it right there.
I think one of the big plays in the football game, late in the football game, I guess it was fourth quarter, I believe, either late third quarter or early fourth quarter. Compsa got a tip on the pass down the near sideline in front of us. It was intended for Marcus Olds, and Christian reached out there at the last minute and tipped it, deflected it. He was behind him. Had he caught that ball, and the wingspan of Compsa, again, deflected, it was incomplete. Had Olds caught that ball, he was off to the races. I thought that was a big play in the football game.
Yeah, from that point, that could have been a touchdown to tie the game. From that point, they punt the football. I think they may have had one more possession, but when they punted, the huge part of the game was when they punted the football with 7 minutes and 42 seconds to go in the game. I'm sure that they expected to get another possession, if not 2 out of that. And our offensive line and Dylan and those guys got after it, and then they never got the ball back.
We win the Three Rivers Conference Championship, again, avenging the loss last year, 28-27, by winning it over there, 28-21. What was your speech? We had some technical difficulties on the radio and couldn't get down to hear your post-game speech to the guys. And what'd you talk to them about?
We've talked, a lot about what it takes to win championships, the togetherness, the mental toughness, all those kind of things. And at that juncture, the feeling those guys had was incredible. You could see it on their faces. And we just kind of fed off that a little bit, talked about the feeling that you had and the work that went into it. It's exciting. When you win a football game, the community's into it, the boys are into it. Sometimes last year was tough on these kids. As painful as a loss is, I think a win is that much more exhilarating for them. And we just kind of relished the moment, I guess, down there on the field after the game.
Of course, some of the Rebels have said all the weightlifting, extra wind sprints, all the practice in the summer, everything, they kept going back to that 1 point. 1 point, lost 28-27, and you used that kind of as almost like a marketing tool for our football team this year to, guys, remember that 1 point, and obviously they did.
Well, yeah, we can go back to, any conference championship that we've won in the past, and I can show you 3 or 4 plays in the game. We alluded to one there, Christian Compsa's tip pass. I mean, it's a game of inches. And that's really what that sign meant. We got that made last winter at 28-27. Put it in the weight room. Anytime you want to cheat a rep, you want to cheat a sprint, you want to lay out of something. We were only 1 point away from getting where we want to get to. I think on Friday and Saturday, I think there were some of those signs burned. We had a bunch of those out. Those guys said they were tired of looking at those things. Some of them have taken them home and put them up in their room. I know Dylan had one in his room. And I got some videos back of some signs being burned over the weekend.
There you go. And so they go to Elizabeth and do the Rebels and win 28-21. We have qualified for the 14th straight year, the playoffs, the TSSAA. When we come back, we'll talk about our first-round opponent. Also set the bracketing around the upper part of Northeast Tennessee. Coach, in closing here, put a wrap on this game. Three Rivers Conference Championship. He beat a great program, Elizabethton. Sean Witten's a great coach, great talent, and you went over there and beat a heck of a football team in a heck of a game.
It was, and so much goes into that. And I said after the game, the assistant coaches, all those guys that put those hours in, and the players are the ones that deserve that. They went over and got after it. Brown Childress has been historically a very, very, very tough place to play. I know there's a lot of things that go into whether or not they're going to get the new stadium or not. As it stands right now, if everything works out, that could be the last game I ever played there. And I guess that kind of makes it a little bit sweeter that the Sullivan South Rebels won a championship there in a tough place to play. I told them at halftime, nothing in life that's worth anything comes easy. And we were kind of one of those battles, and they kind of bought into that, and just a lot of fun for us.
As we were leaving Thursday night after the game, I heard more about that than losing the conference championship. Some of the old-timers said, we may have gotten beat on this field last time we played by another team came in and on our last game here beat us. And a lot of the old-timers I was hearing as I was leaving, that got in the crawl just as much as losing the ball game. So there is a lot of tradition there and a lot of wins on that field, and we go in and get a big one, 28-21. Quick break. We'll come right back. We'll talk playoffs. It all starts this Friday. Single elimination. If you win, you move on. If you lose, you go home. We'll find out who we play and talk about the upper Northeast Tennessee quadrant of teams. We'll come back. We're talking Sullivan South Rebel football. Head coach Sam Haynie. You are in the huddle.
From the driveways where your kids play basketball and ride their bicycles, to the parking lots at your local church or grocery store, Bracken Paving is an important part of many neighborhoods in our area. No matter how large or how small the job, Bracken strives for excellence in every service they provide. It's a foundation for a strong community. Discover the difference at Bracken Paving and Asphalt Maintenance. Give us a call or visit us online at brackenpaving.com.
Back in the huddle talking Sullivan South Rebel football. I'm your host, Tom Taylor. Again, the football game Friday night. You can hear it on the radio beginning at 5:30. And again, we'll start our pregame coverage. Kickoff at 7. Remember now, all the games start earlier because of travel, so it will be a 7 o'clock kickoff all the way through the playoffs. Let's set the upper Northeast Tennessee quadrant. The number 1 seed, Knox Fulton, takes on Scott County. Fulton 10-0, Scott County at 7-3. The other side of that bracket, Knox Catholic, the number 4 seed at 9-1, will take on the Elizabethton Cyclones, the number 5 seed at 8-2. Then you have Greenville, the number 3 seed, at home against Knox Carter. Green Devils at 9-1, Carter at 7-3. Then our ball game here at, again, on John Allen Compton Field at Carl Matherly Stadium will be the Rebels at 9-1, taking on Sullivan East. We go in as the number 2 seed. East goes into the number 7 seed. Obviously, seeding is very, very important. Winning that ball game last week against Elizabethton was huge as far as where we're placed in the playoffs.
You know, we didn't know how things would shake out at the top because of the Alcoa Catholic game and where Catholic would be seeded. If they would have won, they would have been the 1 seed since they lost to the 4 seed. What I did think we had a pretty good handle on was that the loser of our football game Thursday night would have a pretty tough seeding, as Elizabethton does, having to go on the road to Catholic. So we knew not only was the conference championship at stake, but the seeding in the playoffs were pretty important there Thursday night too.
Well, theoretically, Elizabethton, if they beat Catholic, which is going to be a tough task because they're a very good football team down there. It's not that they can't do it, but it's going to be a tough battle between those two. If you win that one, you more than likely, I'd bet the house, you're going to play Fulton. We were there last year and gave them a run for the money. So Elizabethton's got a pretty tough road ahead. We'll take on Sullivan East on Friday night. We would play the winner of the Greenville-Carter game. If South wins, we'll be here next Friday night because we're the higher seed. If we lose, of course, the season is over. So let's talk about Sullivan East. Went up there in that mud and rain that night and beat them 40-0. They've had a good football season. They're 7-3. That's typically not the case. Normally they've had a very tough year football-wise, but East has had a nice year, and they'll come in here, I guess, I would think Coach Locke will spin it nothing to lose and everything to gain.
They will, you know, and, the playoffs, the old adage is everybody's 0-0. I went back and dug up a few stats for the guys yesterday in practice in that, Tennessee High beat us one year 52-7 in the regular season. We came back and in 24-19 we ended up losing, but it was closer than what I think they felt like. In 2009, I thought Tennessee High had a heck of a football team, beat Boone pretty handily in the regular season. Boone turns around and upsets them. Boone had no business beating them. So just getting that in our kids' minds, we got to go get them back off the moon. We're sky high off that Friday night or Thursday night win. Those guys are fired up, and as they well should be. But the thing they got to come back and understand is it's going to take some focus and enthusiasm and energy for us to stay in this thing, because one slip up now and your season's over with. But, and that's something as a coach you got all week to get back. Fortunately, we don't have to be ready to play Monday night. We got to be ready to play Friday night, but we've stressed that, and we'll address that in practice this week.
Going into, of course, here we are in November. The weather's supposed to be cold again Friday night. So going into those kind of weather conditions, offensively you have off nights, weather-wise, play-wise. Fair statement that defense is going to drive the bus when you get into the playoffs?
Yeah, and I've said for years, in playoff games or big football games, the team that can run the football and the team that can stop the run. If you can stop the run, make somebody one-dimensional in cold weather, then you got an advantage. And, like I said, we've challenged our defense to play good football down the stretch here. They've done that. And then offensively, we've been able to do what it takes to put points on the board. So you don't ever know what you're going to get in this time of year, what kids will think. So I'm sure East will be sky high, and we need to be ready for it.
Of course, you go back to that game. That was Christian Comsa 40 and Sullivan East nothing. That was the night that Comsa scored every point, had his hand on all the point afters. He literally had a hand on every point we scored. So how tough is it going to be for South to get motivated, given the fact, let's face it, these are 16, 17-year-old kids. They know the score. They know what to do when they went up there. How tough will it be to get them motivated, given the fact that you beat them 40-0 first time you played them?
Well, that's something that we have to address. Our practice habits and tempo will have to help us. Friday night, I think they understand. I think it would be a tougher deal if they didn't understand the significance of, a bad outing or turnovers or some things don't go your way that, you're going to put a sour note onto a very, very good season. These guys are mature. I mean, the good thing is we've got a ton of seniors that have played a lot of football, and I don't think that if I know them the way I know them, that they won't be ready to play.
Us media guys talk about the fact we've qualified for the playoffs for 14 straight years. I think that's extremely impressive. I don't know if DB can say that, or Science Hill can say that, or Greenville can say that. I don't know who can say they've been to the playoffs 14 straight years except Dobbins Bennett and Science Hill maybe. And I'm not sure, I have to go back and check, but who can say it except for Sullivan South, who've been out there 14 years?
And I think that's the thing that we're most proud of here with our program is the consistency. The talent fluctuates. Obviously, you're going to have teams that are a little bit more athletic and talented, and when those teams come around, you got to do really, really good. Other years, you're going to have kids that may not be as talented, but they fight and play. And the big thing is just how solid the program's been at churning out wins and playing good, tough football, and that's good. 14 years is pretty good.
You got on the team earlier in the season, 40-0. Friday night, one of the keys is to get on them early again and kind of break their back, kill their spirit, whatever adjective you want to use. That one of the keys?
Well, I think, the big thing is just to get out and get settled in and play. Hopefully, if we execute well and get off to a good start. East, but they play hard on defense. I mean, they do. If you watch them, they play very hard and aggressive. Offensively, they put up some points last time they didn't, so I'm sure they go back to the last time we played and try to make some adjustments to get some points on the board. As you alluded to, we're dealing with 16 and 17-year-old boys. But if we'll come and do what I think we'll do, then we should be fine.
Dylan Wigger, 555 yards rushing so far this season, 1,968 yards passing. Again, 30 touchdowns. He's tied his own school record a year ago, most touchdown passes in a season. He's already broken Kurt Phillips' touchdown passes in a career. So, I mean, this guy just keeps on keeping on, and he's surrounded by a bunch of good, hard-working kids. So, yeah, Wigger's kind of the cornerstone of the team, but he is not the team. You've got a lot of great kids out there for Sullivan South.
Well, our skill guys, as I've alluded to all year, those guys can make plays. We've laughed a little bit that we only have one football to go around. The Josh Bookers and Evan Hedricks, Christian Compsons, Will Blair, Blake Christian, Jake Strickler. Those guys can make plays. The one area of the team that the line, we've talked about them all year. When we needed it the other night, those guys stepped up. They were getting in there being physical. It came down to us needing some first downs, and they got them for us. So, as I said, they feel the enthusiasm. They've played. When they get to feeling good a little bit, I think that they're still hungry for some more of that.
That offensive line the other night, we didn't touch on that. Let's go back and talk about that for just a second before we wrap up. The offensive line, I thought, really grew up the other night. They were up pound for pound. Were outsized, but most of the guys on that Elizabethan line, it was noticeably different. There were some big old hosses over there. They not only held their ground, but they blew open the holes for Wigger and those guys. And I thought our offensive line outplayed the defensive line of the trenches.
Well, they kept battling in there. There were some times early in the game where we got stalemated a little bit. They kept battling and playing, and ultimately they won out. And it was their heart, and they kept battling. And that's what it took. We knew that we talked about many times about their improvement, and I always was concerned about whether we'd get where we needed to get to. And those guys grew up a little bit in a big ball game.
Elizabethan came in, by the way, averaging 40 points a game. We held them to 21, so you got to look at – I think this kid's one of the most improved players on the team this year. Grant Ward had another heck of a game for Sullivan South. And then, of course, everybody still talks about the hit that Jake Strickler put on Ethan Thomas that temporarily put him out of the ball game. It was a lick, and you could hear it from where we were. And our guys, the nasty boys and the whole defense, obviously were flying to the football.
They were, and once, like I said, they got us misaligned a few times there in the first half. Once we got settled down, and they got a little confidence there in the second half. They got a stop or two. Strick put a good hit on Ethan Thomas there that kind of got us charged up late again. We've talked about a couple times already, Comps's tip ball, and just a ton of people. It took a team effort to hold them down in the second half.
Last question, the injury status, how healthy we are going into, or are we, I should say, going into round one of the playoffs.
Coming out of that game, there's no major injuries, a few bumps and bruises, nothing that a few days won't help us out. Get that extra day since we played on Thursday to heal up a little bit. And I think that we should be as full as we've been yet this year.
Last year you went trick-or-treating. What did you say? You went out as Superman? What were you last year?
Oh, I went as Popeye one year. Yeah. Yep. I didn't have to dress up this year. My girls, they dressed up as two little old women. My wife brought some walkers home from So we got a little trick-or-treating in. You know, have good times. It's good to win a football game and eat a little chocolate candy there after you trick or treat.
You dressed up as Popeye?
Popeye, that's right. I had a suit.
Can you give me one of the Shiver Me Timbers olive?
Nah, I'm not too good on that. No, not too good on that. We did have a good time though.
It's the bottom line.
Yep.
We're gonna have a good time Friday night. Let's go get them. Go Rebels.
Yes, sir. Go Rebels.
Yep. Head coach Sam Haynie. Love talking to this gentleman. You have watched In the Huddle talking Sullivan South Rebel football with head coach Sam Haynie. Again, kickoff Friday night, 7 o'clock in Sullivan East. If you win, you move on to the second round of the playoffs. You lose, your season's over. It all starts at 7 o'clock this Friday night. Coach Haynie, this is Tom Taylor reminding you, win or lose, be a good sport. So long, everybody.